Mayor Morial, welcome. Good to have you with us. I don't know that we can say that this is peak job growth when we still are more than 1 million jobs below the pre-pandemic level of jobs.
You hit the nail right on its head. We're not at peak job growth because not only are we 1 million jobs below where we were before the pandemic, there's still 5.7 million people who want jobs but are not in the labor force, and another 2.5 million people who are not working because their employers shut down during COVID. There are many, many more Americans out there who want to work, and I think there are many employers looking for high-quality employees as well. So we're not at peak job growth. We're not at peak levels. And the disparity between blacks and whites that we talk about a lot remains the same, a 2-to-1 disparity when it comes to the unemployment rate. So we still have a long way to go, but make no mistake about it, this is a strong report, and it continues a trend of a much faster comeback in connection with the COVID recession than we had with the recession of about a decade and a half ago, due to the, if you will, blow-ups in the financial services industry.
Yeah, there was a lot of liquidity, a lot of tonnage put into the economy by the Fed and by the federal government.
Significant.
That has helped the economy go where it is. One of the things that I think is concerning is wage growth is high. It's good. Never look that gift horse in the mouth, but it's not as high as inflation. So people are still not improving necessarily their living standard.
This remains one of the systemic issues in the American economy. And that is for too many Americans, and this is a trend of multiple decades, their wages are not growing as fast as inflation. So even though we now see wage growth, as you mentioned, it is not as fast as inflation. It remains the point that it would be helpful if Congress would get off of its haunch and pass a national $15 minimum wage to create a basic floor. This is long overdue. Many states have stepped into the breach and passed their own, if you will, minimum wage laws. But the best way is to have a national standard. So that's one public policy measure I think that Congress could take in order to try to create some significant or real meaningful growth in wages to keep pace with inflation.
Mayor Morial, on that note, Amazon is one of the highest paying major employers, and it hasn't insulated them from union pressure, for instance, which we're really seeing peak today. And Amazon is kind of hinting that they're going to take a pretty hard tack and try to fight against this, maybe hinting that the NLRB tried to, rig the results and that sort of thing. What would your advice be to Amazon as they contend with this challenge against the backdrop of the labor market that you just described?
I think sometimes finding peace with your own workers is much better than decades and decades of contention. I strongly believe that in a democratic system, workers should have the right to organize. An employer should have the right to resist, and the rules indeed should be fair. Many times today, labor organizing is about benefits, working conditions, retirements, issues. Yes, wages are at the core of it, but a range of other issues. And I think businesses, you have some very, very large business, take AT&T, for example, that has, for the most part, had peace with the communication workers for many decades. So I think that Amazon as a growing business might be better off if they found a way to have peace with their workers. Of course, you've got to do what you have to do as a business if you want to resist their right to organize. But so far, they've been successful in winning or, in fact, defeating organizing elections. But in American democracy, I think that workers have the right to try, have the right to organize, should have the right to speak collectively on their own behalf.